What is up, everybody? Welcome back once again to 2.0 or Leave It Alone. 2.0 or Leave It Alone, episode 3, guys. We are going to be talking about Iron Monger. Of course, an episode of 2.0 or Leave It Alone would not be without Ryan from Mr. Mom Collectibles. Guys, thank you so much, by the way, for the support on our last 2 videos. You guys had a lot of exciting comments. Some of you guys agreed with us, and some of you guys had some different points or some disagreements to offer, which is definitely what we want to see with these videos. We want to hear your guys' thoughts. So as always, as you guys are watching this, if you have some different thoughts or some things to add that we didn't mention, definitely mention it down in the comments below. But let's get right into it. But yes, guys, let's talk about the Iron Monger. So, of course, as always, our first question for the 2.0 or Leave It Alone on Iron Monger is going to be, when was this figure released? Guys, according to this website, shout out to Cool Toy Review. This is a great website, a lot of information. Unfortunately, the original listing for the Iron Monger was taken down on Sideshow. Ryan and I checked before we started filming. But thanks to Cool Toy Review, we do have some information on this figure. So apparently this was originally released to the public in December of 2012. So that's when it started shipping to people. The original retail price was $479.99. Now, I will say, before the start of this video, I did look around and there were some conflicting prices on different websites about what the original retail price is. I'm going to go by this website. This says $479.99, and I've seen a couple websites that say this, so that's the price I'm going with. I was not collecting Hot Toys in 2012, so I don't remember the original price. But still, though, with the price of $479.99, I can understand why. This is quite a big figure. If we scroll up a little bit, I believe they list the size of this figure. So Hot Toys Iron Monger figure stands a massive 17.5 inches tall. That's a big figure, guys. And I've been told that this actually is undersized. A lot of people are saying that this was a bit out of scale and it needs to be a bit bigger if they were to do another one. So just think about that, guys. 17.5 inches tall. That's bigger than like Chewbacca or K2SO. So this is quite a big figure. But if you've seen the first Iron Man film, you know that this was quite bigger than Tony Stark in the Iron Man suit. So, of course, now we got to get into our next question, guys. And our next question is, do Ryan and I currently have this figure in our collection? I'll start. I do not have this figure in my collection. And being that I'm into collecting the older Iron Man suits, this one would fit right in with that original 7. And not only that, I've said this many times, the first Iron Man film is what really sucked me into Marvel. I was never really big into the Marvel comics as a kid. And when I saw that first Iron Man film, it just sucked me right in. I absolutely love that film. And because of that, it is still to this day one of my favorite Marvel films. But yes, unfortunately, I don't have the Iron Monger in my collection. So currently, this is a big hole for me. Ryan, do you currently have the Iron Monger in your collection?
No, I don't. I wish I did. This is one that I obviously missed out on because I wasn't collecting in 2012 either. I started in 2020. This is just one of those most amazing pieces that I really do hope they go back and do. Same thing with you, Iron Man. I was watching Marvel movies before then. Iron Man is still, to me, and they could fight me in the comments, it's the best Iron Man movie made. I'll even go a step further.
I agree with you.
It's still the best Marvel movie made. Solo, I'll even go with best solo Marvel movie made in terms of a solo character origin story. It's the OG. It's what started everything. It was a fantastic story, casting, and it's just overall so fantastic. And like I said, I'm really a fan of those first 7 suits, specifically anything tied to Iron Man. Like you said, the mech test, the Iron Man 3 construction.
Yep.
I know that Hot Toys is doing a 2.0, 3.0 now of the Iron Man Mark 3 that's coming out this year.
Yep.
So really excited, and this is one that I really wish that we had in the collection, but unfortunately not.
Yeah, and like we've both kind of stressed, like if you're a collector of the original 7, this is just like an ultimate companion piece for those, man. And I just, every time I think back to the best of the best when it comes to Marvel, I would agree with you. Iron Man, the first Iron Man film, definitely the best of the 3 Iron Man films, but one of the better, if not the best film in the entire MCU. And it's strong on its own as a solo film, but Robert Downey Jr. is just so perfect for that role, and he just did the introduction of Tony Stark into the MCU so well. It's just an unforgettable film for me, and because of that, this is a piece that is a big hole in my collection. But guys, let's talk about the current secondary market price for the Iron Monger. So, of course, I already told you guys the original retail price, but the current secondary market price is kind of all over the place. I found this when I started Googling. And of course, guys, as I always say, when you go on eBay, make sure that you sort by the sold listings. Never go by the listed prices, because a lot of times those figures don't sell at that price, or they're very inflated just to inflate numbers for the figure overall. Some sellers tend to do that on eBay. So we always got to look at the sold listings. But you can see right here, $650 for this one. Buy it now, free shipping. $475 or best offer with $32 shipping. $435, $32 shipping. This one did have best offer accepted, so they did accept a little bit less than that $435. But you can see, going off of that original retail price, some of these sold for less than the original retail price, and we're going to get into why a little bit later. All right, but now, guys, I'm going to pull up a video of this figure, actually, and then we're going to pull up our next question. Ryan and I thought it would be fitting, actually, to pull up a video and kind of have it playing in the background so we could see what the old looks like, because we both don't have it in our collection, and it will kind of help us make our decision for this question here. And, of course, we have a YouTube ad kind of getting in our way here. But as we get past this ad, guys, what new updates or features would we like to see if this did get a 2.0 release? Now, let me skip forward in this video a little bit so we can kind of see him unboxing it while we're in the background. But guys, for this one, of course, the first thought that everybody's going to have is, again, another ad. Of course, guys, with this one, the thought that everybody's going to have is, I would like to see this in full diecast, if not mostly diecast. Being that this is an older MMS release, unfortunately, this is a fully plastic figure. And being that this is a big, giant 17.5-inch figure, and again, apparently it's undersized, so let's say maybe it's closer to 18 if it gets a re-release, you're going to want some die cast on this one. All that weight on the joints over time is not good on this figure, and I could tell you it was not good to this figure. We're going to get into that after we talk about what we would like to see. But number one for me, definitely going to be die cast, guys. Of course, all of these Iron Man figures, they just feel so nice and substantial. My first Marvel figure was the Iron Man Mark 7 die cast, and unboxing your first die cast figure, you really realize what all the hype is about with these die cast Iron Man and War Machine figures. So I would absolutely love to see this one get the die cast treatment. Apart from that, this does include a kind of face reveal inside the Iron Monger. It's got a bit of a torso for the Jeff Bridges Obadiah Stane head sculpt. So I'd love to see some updates to that sculpt. Of course, updated paint apps. Maybe they could change the sculpt a little bit to kind of get it up to today's technology. Of course, I will say, this original 2012 Jeff Bridges head sculpt is very nice in my opinion, but I think it could just use some updates. You know, you could see it's a pretty good likeness to Jeff Bridges, but to today's standards, I think they could do a much better job. And of course, that'd be one of the things I would like them to see. Of course, because this is an Iron Man style figure, I got to ask for USB power as well. Seeing this one fully lit up with USB power is a must in my opinion, and I think it would look absolutely awesome in your display. And because we're getting USB power for everything else, just for continuity purposes and being able to light everything in our displays, this one's got to have USB power. And then finally, I think for me, I would also like to see maybe some updated paint apps on the armor. Of course, when they use die cast, it'll be a slightly different painting process, but I think it would look much better, again, up to today's standards. Maybe some battle damage and swap out pieces as well. I don't know how easy that would be for the Iron Monger, but they've done it many times in the past for both the Iron Man figures and the War Machine figures. So I think they could definitely do that for this one. But Ryan, what would you like to see done if we get a 2.0 release of the Iron Monger?
A lot of it's gonna be touching on what you said, but I'm looking at this video, by the way, just to double back. I've never seen, so I'm glad you actually pulled this video up. I've never seen a full unboxing video of this before, so I'm really kind of glued into watching this video.
Yeah.
And as I'm watching the video, it's kind of making me change my perception of a couple of things that I want. If you notice, as he was moving the arm, the hydraulics, the parts that come up like above the shoulders, like the exposed rods, I like to see that stuff die cast, or have die cast mechanisms in there, because it looks like it rotates with the arm depending on how you're moving it. As you mentioned, I mean, you can't do die cast of the whole piece. It's not realistic. It'd weigh too much money. It's just not worth it. But I would like to see die cast used for structural integrity purposes on the figure.
Yeah.
Anywhere that potentially there could be a break or a crack, just put die cast in there. People will pay the more money, knowing that issue was resolved. The head sculpt, you know, I will say, going back to watching the video, I was really, the head sculpt was playing tricks with me, because right there it looks really good. But then when he had the sculpt in his hand before, like when he was looking at it up front, I definitely noticed a lot of like, ooh, it was a miss. Like I could
Yeah,
tell that
it
it
looks
wasn't as what I.
softer in that lighting.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
looked real. The perception of it changed a lot when he had it actually in his hand up close to the camera. But like inside the manga like that, it looks really great. But you
Yeah.
expect them to do an updated paint app on the sculpt. I don't know if they would actually do a brand new sculpt, but if anything, to do a paint app on it. USB a given, just because, like I said, it'll fall in suit with everything. And I think one of the other things is to keep it in line, like you said, with height wise. This reminds me a lot of the Hydra Stomper in terms of the look, the overall feel of it.
Yeah.
I know when the
Hmm.
Hydra Stomper recently came out, everyone kind of called it the Iron Monger, like the little brother to it, just because it looked like it. But
Yeah.
yeah, for height wise, because it's very important now, and a lot of people, criticize any new hot toy Iron Man reissue. Why are they doing this? One thing people kind of don't realize is that the height of the figures do play into a really big portion of them, and sometimes people take that for granted. Like the Mark III, it just being the correct height, it makes a huge difference. And it may not be that way to people that maybe have one or two figures, but if you're going to pose the Mark III with the Mark V, with the Mark VII, which are arguably probably the three best suits out of the first seven, you want them to all be proportionally equal to one another.
Yeah.
And that was the flack that Mark I got, because I think a lot of people said the Mark I seemed a little shorter, but that was
Yep.
more realistic because it was mostly him, not the suit.
Exactly.
Not to get off point, same thing with this. I'd like this to be, to the correct proportions. If you were to pair this with a Mark III, it's got to be the right height. So that's a big deal to me, is the height to the figure. So those
Right.
things encompassed, that's what I'd be looking for, obviously, with the figure.
Yeah, and I like that you point out specifically like the pistons need to be reinforced with metal, because we've seen this in the past with like RoboCop, perfect example. He has that same piston that moves up and down when you move the ankle joint. So I know firsthand that those joints aren't the strongest. So that's a great point that you made. I would love to see these reinforced with metal, and definitely all of the joints, they need to be reinforced with metal, because again, like you said, this is a very big figure. And then he's throwing it one of the best scenes here when he blows up the bus and they're getting in a fight on the freeway. But yeah, I agree with you. And again, when you look at this sculpt in this video, apart from all the photos that we looked at, it does look a bit weaker. But to be fair to 2012 standards, I think they did a decent enough job. But yeah, guys, those are the updates we would like to see. And I think those are all kind of things that Hot Toys would definitely look at if they were to do a 2.0 release of this, because they're just very obvious changes they could make to kind of update to this to today's standards. But finally, guys, we're going to take a look at the condition issues with this figure. And unfortunately, there's a very common one. And we're going to pull that up here. So give me 1 second. Let me pull this up here. The question, of course, is, are there any known condition issues due to aging with this figure? And there is a very common issue with this one. And I apologize, these photos are a little blurry. These are photos that I found on this forum here. Let me see if I can find one that's a bit more obvious. So you could see here, guys, let me zoom in even more. You could see here, there's a crack in that kind of leg hip joint. And this is very, very common. I was reading through this forum post, and there was a lot of people saying, yes, this is very common. I've had the same crack in the exact same spot. And I've seen a lot for sale that also have this issue. So that kind of is an obvious reason why a lot of people are going to want another one of these. Those who currently have this in their collection and may have had this break on theirs, or those who have considered buying it like Ryan and I and have avoided it because of those issues. This kind of speaks volumes to that, in my opinion. Of course, we would love to see some diecast, just because it is an Iron Man style figure. The diecast is a given just because it's cool. I mean, yes, it adds some weight to it. It makes it feel more expensive, but the diecast is just cool. I mean, it's an Iron Man style suit, so you would love to see some diecast. But yes, guys, so with that being said, we're going to get into our final thoughts on this figure. So does this figure deserve a 2.0, or should it be left alone? Guys, I'm going to say this absolutely deserves a 2.0. The reason I say that, for many of the reasons mentioned earlier, I would love to see it updated with some diecast, not only for structural integrity, just because it's cool to have a diecast Iron Man style figure with some weight to it. I would love to see some updates to that Jeff Bridges head sculpt to today's standards, better paint apps, maybe a redo of the sculpt. I think they would absolutely kill it. You know how everybody always says Hot Toy does a great job with older people. I think they would knock it out of the park. And I think with some updates, this would be a top tier head sculpt for them, just based on their history in the past. And of course, overall, the paint work and everything could use an update. But again, based on 2012 standards, I do think they did a great job at the time. with those cracking issues, guys, this is a figure that I'm personally going to avoid just because I know it's going to happen eventually. It's happened to so many people. I did quite a bit of research looking into these issues, and I just found forum post after forum post, Facebook post after Facebook post of people talking about the cracking issues in that hip area on this guy. So because of that, I think this has to get a 2.0. We can't leave this one alone because this is from the first Iron Man film, a very pivotal film in the MCU. And this is one that not only I would want, but I know a lot of other people would love to see a 2.0 treatment for. Ryan, does this deserve a 2.0 or should it be left alone?
I think it should be left alone. No, I think it it definitely does deserve a 2.0. I know the community when we did the last episode, the Count Dooku, a lot of people were voicing their, hey, you guys should talk about the Monger just because of this situation. So I think the community overall would be very accepting of it. There would be, I mean, this I would garner this is going to be well over $500, probably a $600 figure just because of what they would do to it. You look back at figures from 2012, and the first group of figures I think of that got that kind of 2.0 treatment were like the Avengers. If you think about the Captain America, you think about the Mark 7, those figures, the Loki, even though people thought the Loki new one, the Endgame version was kind of controversial. But if you look at like the Captain, those versions of those figures updated, I mean, there's a huge difference to them, different bodies, paint apps, the height, it just looks so much different. So that being said, that's just something I'm thinking about because I didn't realize that figure was 2012. I thought it was a little bit later than that. But Iron Man, I mean, you can never go wrong with Iron Man. That's the one thing about Marvel is that they're heavily saturated with the ability to dip in and do 2.0s. So this is something that, although I don't foresee it on their radar right away, they have a lot on the docket. I wouldn't be shocked if we saw some kind of announcement or tease of it or something like that. Maybe, 2028, you get the 20th anniversary of Iron Man, you might get a whole new.
I hope they don't make us wait that long.
Yeah, I don't never know. People start thinking like that, but I mean, I can't believe that movie's 20 years old. In 2028, it's been 20 years, which is crazy. So I mean, I think you could see something like that happen. But I think it might be a little sooner, in my opinion. But to touch on everything you said, it definitely deserves a 2.0. I think the community would welcome it, especially the Iron Man fans like ourselves. Especially with the new us building our new displays, it would fit in welcomely next to the Hulk, Thanos in terms of that height wise. I think it will fit perfect. And like I said, it will fit the whole collection of the Iron Man figures. So I think it'll look fantastic. And 2.0, it's well overdue in my opinion.
Yeah, and also as we mentioned earlier, like, just for continuity purposes, like having the USB power and everything. Now that we're all like, man, I'm going to start lighting everything in my display. Things have changed now that we're getting these USB lightsabers, USB Iron Man figures, USB display bases. Like, we're going to all start rethinking our collections, thinking about how we can kind of USB power everything to make it all look good together. So just having those modern updates, I think a lot of people would appreciate, and having a figure that may stand the test of time a lot better with some die cast reinforcements, I think would be definitely, like you said, a welcomed 2.0 for a lot of people. But that's all we got for you guys. And once again, the main reason we did this one is not only we want it a lot, but a lot of people were requesting that we talk about this one just because it's one that the community has been begging for. I mean, this one, again, came out in 2012, so it's been a long, long time. We're in 2023 now, so it's about time they took a second look at it. I don't know where this one fits in with their current release schedule. That's the only unfortunate thing. Like Ryan said, the obvious thing would be the 20th anniversary of Iron Man. I don't know if they'll quite wait that long, but you never know. I mean, it's hard to see where this one fits in. So we just have our fingers and toes crossed with that. But of course, as always, guys, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, definitely leave your comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you guys think this deserves a 2.0, or do you think it should be left alone? You're happy with your current Iron Monger 1.0? Let us know down in the comments below. And of course, as always, we'd love to hear your suggestions. A couple of you have mentioned this, and we got to make a video for this one. So if you have any other suggestions on figures you would like to see us talk about, definitely leave those down in the comments below. Thank you so much, guys, as always, for the support on our live streams that are once again every Thursday at 7 p.m. EST. So if you haven't checked us out on Thursdays, if you can, it's always fun to see us live. We get to communicate and have fun with you guys live in the chat. So if you haven't already, try to make it out. We would love to see you there. But we will see you next time, guys. Have a good one.